What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today, we're going to be going over Bleacher Report's biggest overreaction to every NBA team's first 2 weeks this season. So, if you do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on teams you have been very impressed with, as well as teams you've been very disappointed with. So, without further ado, let's get right on into it. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Let's jump right into this. First team up, Atlanta Hawks, as it starts alphabetical order. Initially, sound the Jalen Johnson got the bag and followed in John Collins' footsteps alarm. The alarm has been silenced. Jalen Johnson has been playing really well overall. The problem is the defense is not good. The defense is pretty abysmal over there. We see flourishes here where Dyson Daniels and Zachary Ricochet, they showcase that defense that you can see lock up defenders, but overall in that half court, they're just pretty terrible. Of course, every team that has a guy like Trae Young on the roster, you're not going to be expecting them to be some fantastic defensive team. You're going to be looking at them being just outscore their opponents kind of team, and thus far, they're not doing so hot. The Atlanta Hawks seems like they're just going in that rebuild mode, that younger mode. I don't know if we'll see Trae Young on this roster the entire year or at the end of the season somewhere else, especially with the San Antonio Spurs owning a lot of their picks in the DeJounte Murray swap. You could be looking at them going and grabbing with Chris Paul being pretty close to retirement there. You might be looking to switch things up and add a younger player in there. Next up here, the Boston Celtics. Initially, this year's championship race is already over. The overreaction, of course. Better luck next season, everyone else. So, the Celtics been playing well. Of course, there's been a couple close games that in a 7-game series would never be close. The Pistons win to overtime, etc. But what I will say is this Celtics team, even though I'm a Celtics fan, they're just shooting the lights out from three. They are out shooting. They're just taking so many threes that eventually threes are going to start falling even on a poor shooting night. Defensively, they're really good. Offensively, they're decent. Jason Tatum seems like he is wanting that. Even if he's not going to be, let's say, a top 2 candidate for the MVP race, his name needs to be in that conversation because he's playing out of his mind. Both like as a leader and when he's not shooting necessarily great, but on the nights that he's shooting and dominating, I mean, it is dominating performances that we're seeing from Jason Tatum himself. Jaylen Brown also being a really good Robin to Jason Tatum's Batman. But overall, I've been very impressed and very happy as a Celtics fan. Now, here we have the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets, Dennis Schroeder's been playing phenomenal, but Cam Thomas is about to make NBA history by becoming just the 13th player to average over 30 points per game before turning 24. Status of the initial overreaction is so much for that. Now, Cam Thomas is still a bucket. He's still going to probably provide a lot of trade value for a lot of teams. As in, like, he's somebody that if you're like, you could see the value that he'll bring off the bench. I see him as like a 6-man role. Somebody that if they need a backup point guard or problem scoring off that bench, I think of somebody like the Lakers going out and trying to get somebody like him with D'Angelo Russell's poor playing. He might be in a deal like that, especially on a relatively friendly contract. They're going to look to ship him off before they need to pay him kind of thing. They're in that race for Cooper Flag, but right now they're right at that 500 mark, so they're not actually going for it. Next up here we have the Charlotte Hornets. The initial reaction was LaMelo Ball's totally making an All-NBA team. Status of that totally is a strong word, but then again, isn't that the point? LaMelo has been on another level of play. He has been shooting out of his mind. He looks like a different point guard. He looks like a veteran going out there and doing his thing. Same with like Anthony Edwards of the same draft class. Those two have been balling so far. I've been very impressed with both of them, but specifically LaMelo, he's been getting guys open. He's been getting good shots. He's been getting in his bag, and he's been just overall like a floor general. Now, the one thing that always worries me, you guys have heard it here lots of times on this channel, LaMelo Ball's injury history. We're one rolled ankle away for this season being abysmal for the Hornets. But yeah, I really like what I'm seeing with them. I like the rookie that they just got. He's been rim protecting for them. Brandon Miller's been playing very well for them as well. There's a lot of good to say about this team overall. Um, so next up here, we have the Chicago Bulls. Now, when you think about a team that shouldn't be performing well, you're thinking the Chicago Bulls should not be trying to win games right now. They should be on the rebuild mode. They should be looking to trade Zach LaVine as quickly as they can and for the most they possibly can. Um, yeah, they're just they don't look good yet. They still are pulling out a win here, win there. New overreaction. The Chicago Bulls are going to ruin everything again by failing to be bad enough. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They should be like the Utah Jazz and only have like one win. I don't know what. I understand the development of the young players, Matas Buzelis, Josh Giddey, like guys that are probably going to be there for, possibly a long time. You just drafted Matas, but like you got to start shipping off these players. The Vucevic, the Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, players like that you can go and get value for right now. And what I mean by value is just anything, second round picks, first round pick, etc. Somebody like the Pelicans could use a Nikola Vucevic. The Lakers could be looking at packaging D'Angelo Russell for a Zach LaVine. The Kings could be looking at doing something like that, getting involved in that mess as well. There's a lot of teams that I think would be interested in those guys, and I think Lonzo would have great value. I understand he hasn't played in 2 years, and he's still getting back in the flow of things. Possible buyout candidate there, but overall, I would be shocked if they don't make any move by the trade deadline. They need to be huge sellers and just go. Like, I'm okay with the idea of Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey because he's a younger talent. He fits that timeline better. See what you can get out of him because you weren't going to get. You waited too long. You passed up on the opportunity of multiple first round picks from another team. So you might as well just go get that young player. And they need to start losing games. That's all I'm saying. Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs are dominating so far. Now, I don't know if this is initially just a regular season just slam start. We've seen Donovan Mitchell in the past on a team like Utah where they were super good in the regular season. Then the playoffs came when the game slowed down and it really mattered more and they weren't able to come out on top. We saw it against the Nuggets, for example, when they played the Nuggets or when Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz played the Nuggets. But I think the key is Darius Garland is fully healthy, and he looks like he's fully healthy. He looks good on the court. Evan Mobley's been coming and growing. Jared Allen looks really good. Isaac Okoro hasn't been terrible. But yeah, overall, I mean, they're building that second team in the East mentality. I still think that the Celtics would be the favorite, of course. But that's also they came off a championship run. And I just think top down, the Celtics have a better roster. But the Cavs are right there. It's not like it's a tight. I mean, it's not like it's a far race. We're talking a tight race here where we're looking at like Donovan Mitchell is showing that he can be that guy. Now, I just need to see that in the playoffs, that playoff success. Like, I think it's a failure of a year for the Cavaliers if they don't go like conference finals. I think that's a few teams that are like that in the East. You could say that about the 76ers, and I'll get to them as they come up. Next up here, we have the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Dallas' initial overreaction was meet the actual second best team in the Western Conference status, unflappable confidence that is only like 3% performative. Dallas is interesting because I feel like they're always one of those squads that just isn't going to perform great in the regular season. As in, like, they could be a fifth seed and then make a finals run. I think they're still figuring out things with Klay Thompson, how he fits in and everything. But there's flashes that you could see once everything clicks, they're going to be a dangerous squad to play for sure. Luka, of course, going to be always in that MVP candidacy. Kyrie always going to play out of his mind as well, and just developing young guys like Derek Lively. Overall, I'm not too worried about the Dallas Mavericks. I think that they'll pick it up. They'll be fine. They'll be towards the top of the West by the end of the season. But they are a team to keep an eye on because they're a little bit older with, Kyrie, an aging point guard, Klay Thompson, that aging shooting guard there. So just, we'll keep an eye on them for sure. Denver Nuggets. Now, they've started pretty poorly. Their initial overreaction was the Denver Nuggets will be a play-in team if Jokic does not win the scoring title. Status of the overreaction, is it still an overreaction? They started off, they are at the bottom of the West, right above Utah. But what I will say is I think that they figured something out recently. Russell Westbrook and Jokic work very well together as of these last few games. And Russell is showing some flashes that he looks like he's starting to resurgence that career where we might see an opportunity that's kind of interesting where Jamal Murray might be on the trade market. And I know it's crazy to think about, but Russell Westbrook and Jokic could be a duo that bring you, and whatever you package with Jamal Murray and get in return could be something to keep an eye on. Where we're looking at, obviously, there's that gaping hole of Christian Brown at that two, whether he could be a serviceable two starting long term for a playoff contending and championship contending team. But the Nuggets overall, I think that they figured it out. Because I think that you might look to ship Jamal Murray or you look to just start Russell Westbrook with Jamal Murray. And then you have Jokic. I like the two-man game of Jokic and Westbrook. It seems like when Jokic has the ball in his hands, he seems to find Westbrook in just great spots, and Westbrook is just able to hit his shots recently. He looks really good on the Nuggets. That's what I'll say. Next up here, we have the Detroit Pistons. They are crazy. It is just, I think they need to be on a shopping spree. They just need to go out and sell everything, as in they need to be the seller. That's what I mean. Not shopping spree as in they're buying everything, but selling to everyone else. You're wasting Cade's young talent. Cade does turn the ball over quite a bit for a guard, but you see that a lot with younger guards, i.e. LaMelo, Trae Young, etc. James Harden even. Jaden Ivey, I think that he needs a new spot. He needs to go to like a team where he could just he could be on a more competitive team. Like the Hornets, for example. You put him and LaMelo together, I really like that, and then have Brandon Miller there. But yeah, it's about time that they just figure things out and ship everybody out kind of thing. I think it sucks that this is a 6-year rebuild and they don't look like they're anywhere closer to being playoff contention, but it's just embarrassing watching this team play. Like, it doesn't look like NBA basketball. It looks like they're a college basketball team of like Kentucky Wildcat freshmen that it's game 2 of the season and they're playing North Carolina ranked as a 2 seed. They are one of those teams that just doesn't look like anything fits really well together. Jalen Duren, he half the time looks like he's a dominant center in the league. The other half of the time he looks like somebody that could just literally be huge-footed and slow-footed and just can't do anything too much on the court. So yeah, I think Detroit's got to start making some moves, got to start shipping some guys off. I understand the acquisitions in the offseason you tried with Tim Hardaway and Tobias Harris, and of course, we're still at the beginning of the season, so I don't want to do anything huge overreactions, but again, we're 10 games into the season, and you're still not figuring it out. Something's got to move. Golden State Warriors here, they are playing out of their minds. Initial overreaction, Jonathan Kuminga should not have bet on himself. Status of initial overreaction, fluctuating wildly. It is something that I have a buddy who he's a Sacramento Kings fan. He believes in the Buddy Hield effect. And Buddy Hield is going to play super well for the first 10 games, and then after that he's going to fall off a cliff. It seems different. It really does feel different for me. As I've watched Buddy Hield since Oklahoma, and then him with the Kings and Pelicans, etc., the Pacers, Philadelphia. He has been a journeyman, but I think that he fits very well in this offense for the Warriors. And I think that he'll be able to put together a decent season. I mean, we're talking about a guy who over his career shoots 40% from the three. And that fits very well in the Warriors offense, especially when you have the Kumingas, the Wiggins, the Draymond Greens in your lineup that don't shoot the ball very well from the three-point line. So you need somebody else. That's why they had Curry and Clay together. Curry can't be the only one shooting and making all the threes. So you have Buddy Hield here who can shoot and knock down a few threes, right? Kuminga, I still think that they should have moved off of him. I think that they should have swung for the fences for Lauri Markkanen. But of course, they chose not to. That's cool. It's up to them. But I think that they're a little bit, especially with his up and down play, they might be regretting that a little bit because Kaminga was the thing that was holding them back from getting someone like Lauri Markkinen. Next up here, we have the Houston Rockets. Houston, initial overreaction was there are too many good players on this team, and yes, this is mostly about Amen Thompson. Status of the overreaction is nature is healing, which is to say Thompson's minutes are up. Overall, this team does have a lot of good players. I think that Jalen Green has been playing really well for them, and taking some of those minutes away from a Thompson guy or Reed Shepard. Now they kind of are right at that area that OKC saw them in, where they've got all the young talent in the world. Now it's time to figure out and pick and choose. Right, a few years back when they had like Alexei Podjeski for the Thunder, and they had all these young guys that the Cason Wallace and Shea and of course Lou Dort and all these guys, and then they were like, okay, we need to pick our guys and stick with our core and then ship off the rest, right? Josh Giddey didn't fit, see you later, right? Go get guys that fit your mold, and that's something that the Rockets could be looking to do now here. Wait till the offseason, could ship out some of these younger players to then go get a vet because you want to win now, especially with your head coach, Ime Udoka. He is a championship contending coach, right? You've got Fred VanVleet here who is ready to win games. Alperen Sengun, sometimes he looks like he's ready to go and he is that all-star caliber guy. Other times I don't see it too much. So similar to like a Jalen Duren where he's kind of a player who it's not really working too much. It's working 50-50. Sometimes I see it and I'm like, yeah, he's the guy. Other times I'm like, it's similar to like Yusuf Nurkic, right? That's how I see Sengun. I think that, not saying that they're equivalent as players, but I see Sengun as he definitely could either, I could see him losing you games, not necessarily going out and winning you games by dropping some 40 bomb, but I could see him definitely losing you some games by playing you out of that. Similar to how my buddy felt about that Buddy Hield effect. Sengun, that's how I look at Sengun. I'm like, it's something that I would move off personally. You paid him a lot of money and everything like that, especially since you've got other options here. And there's other teams out there like the Pelicans. The Pelicans need a center desperately. You might go and talk to someone like Portland and go get a DeAndre Ayton-esque to fit the roster better than or a defensive caliber center like Nicholas Claxton over in the Brooklyn Nets. Somebody like that can just really help out this roster to win games. Jimmy Butler, Fred VanVleet, etc. in the offseason with a guy like a Nicholas Claxton, you might be looking at something. Jalen Green being able to shoot the three ball. I mean, we're talking about hypotheticals, of course. A lot of hypotheticals in the offseason, but I think that they've got a long time throughout the season where they're going to figure it out and they're going to be an active team around that trade deadline. Next up here, the Indiana Pacers. I think the slump is over. I really do. The initial overreaction, we're seeing the 2021 Atlanta Hawks reincarnated. What they mean by that is a team that the Atlanta Hawks pushed super far into the Eastern Conference Finals and just really overshot what they actually could do just due to like injuries and all that good stuff. And they're now being humbled in this new season. I kind of agree. Status of the initial overreaction, the vibes aren't much better, but let's allow the evidence to mount one way or another before invoking the A word. Now, Indiana, I do think that they're starting to figure it out. Tyrese Halliburton started off the season very slow, shooting the ball pretty poorly and everything, but I've seen the last few games he's actually been shooting decently. And I think he just needed that little bit of like bump to get over, and then he'll be fine. I think that the Pacers will pick it back up. I don't see them as necessarily the 2021 Atlanta Hawks. I think that they have a lot more better talent on this roster than that. But what I do see is possibly a team that just has just under the talent level of some of the top dogs there in the East. Because if you match up, it seems like they need the perfect matchups to go far, just like the Hawks did, where they had those injuries and all that. Atlanta, they were able to go, and then the next season just fell off. Indiana here, I just can't see them beating a team. I can't see them beating the Knicks with full strength. I can't see them beating the Celtics full strength. The Cavs, I'm not too sure on quite yet. I don't know if this is just a super hot start or if they are a dominating team to be reckoned with in the East. We'll have to see just because this is the first season we've seen them so dominant. Here we have the Los Angeles Clippers. Initial overreaction is Zubac is going to win Most Improved Player. Status of it, stepping out on the limb, this is a shakier proposition. Sorry. The Clippers, they're not terrible, honestly. I was expecting them to be a lot worse. Harden is showing some flashes of his previous time with Houston, where he is just that the less is more theory, where he doesn't need Kawhi Leonard and Paul George next to him to really be dominant and really good. He is showing that he can handle the rock and need the ball in his hands, and he'll get the ball in the right places. Other guys that are kind of doing well, Norman Powell. Norman Powell just had an injury, so that's unfortunate, but he was playing really well, averaging like 25 a game. So it's good to see, especially since they had that new arena. You know, you want to win games when you have a brand new arena, all these fans. The ticket prices are a little expensive there because they just, of course, opened a new arena. So keep that in mind as the season goes on, that this team has to win games. They might be buyers at the trade deadline. They might be looking at somebody who's just a little frustrated, maybe like a Detroit Pistons roster, and just trying to go and get something for cheap. Even like the Bulls, they could be looking and seeing what's up with Zach LaVine or something like that, to go acquire it for cheaper, because they have options, but they don't have draft capital. That is their problem. The Thunder have all their draft capital because they gave up 5 first-round picks to the Thunder for Paul George. The Lakers here. Initial overreaction, JJ Redick's going to win Coach of the Year. Status of it is Now, I said this to start the year. The Lakers always start off the year so strong. First 2-3 games, they're undefeated. They just look so dominant. No one can beat them, etc. That's how they looked this year. They came out guns blazing, and then they cooled down. They really did. They lost to the Detroit Pistons. It's just, come on, guys. What are we doing here? We're losing to a team that looks like the Kentucky Wildcats freshman roster. You know, and that's no disrespect to Kentucky, but it's college. It's not the NBA. The Lakers should be dominating them. Every team pretty much in the NBA besides like 4 should be dominating the Detroit Pistons. Overall, what the Lakers need to do is just, D'Angelo Russell hasn't been playing well. He needs to get swapped for something else. There's other players. I think you need to start Dalton Connect, just flourish that. Have a Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect starting backcourt there. Defensively, they need some work, a little bit of work there. Anthony Davis actually looks pretty good to start the year too. Not an MVP candidate, but he looks good to start the year. And then, of course, LeBron is 40. We can't really be expecting LeBron. The age is showing on the court when you watch it. He does look like he has aged and progressed, but of course, because he's 40 years old. Just like Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, but wasn't the same Peyton Manning that he was when he played for the Colts, right? Similar case here. LeBron is still able to put up great numbers and everything like that, but you can just watch it. It's the eye test. You just see it and you're like, yes, LeBron looks older on the court. He doesn't look like Miami Heat or Cavalier LeBron. He looks like end of the career Los Angeles Lakers LeBron. Here we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Initial overreaction is head coach Taylor Jenkins' rotation is either telltale, unnecessary, confusing as hell, or a combination of all three. Initial overreaction for the status, I stand by it, but we're moving on anyway. Yeah, it's just the Grizzlies look a little strange, for sure. Ja is clearly, that injury did not hold him back at all. You know, he looks really good. Scottie Pippen Jr. He joined his father in becoming the first father-son duo to both record triple-doubles, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, they are just an exciting league pass team, in my opinion. They look like one of those teams that they're not necessarily gonna go dominate like we may have thought, because of years in the past they were able to secure a top seed when Ja was fully healthy and not suspended. But it doesn't look like that. It looks like they might be a middle-of-the-pack West team, 6th seed in that area. And yeah, it looks like they just need to develop their young guys, Zach Edey, Scottie Pippen Jr., of course, the Yuki kid. That guy is phenomenal to watch. He's very exciting. He gives like a Like I know they call him the Nebraskan Curry or something like that because he came from Nebraska and shot the lights out over there. I like watching this kid. This kid is exciting. I'm pretty sure that's the same guy, but um, not anything. They're not going to be some crazy team to watch in the playoffs. I don't think. Miami Heat. Initial reaction is Tyler Hero's embracing a permanent evolution on the offensive end. Status of it firmly intact. Bam Adebayo came out and said that to start the season that he wants to make 1 3 a game. So far, he has not done that. He has been like 0 for 10 from 3. He's been taking more threes, which is cool, but you got to start making them, Bam. If you're going to take them, try and make them. Because then teams are just going to stack the box on the inside and just not even. If you have the ball at the top of the key to shoot a 3, cool. Go ahead, right? I mean, you might as well just double Tyler Hero or Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's been playing decently well to start off the year. I think that it's that contract year. I stated it. He's going to have a good year because he's going to go get his bag. Whether it's from Miami or whether it's from someone else like Houston or Brooklyn, I see him trying to go and get that bag. Miami they just look a little bit like kind of like not exactly like the Pacers because the Pacers I feel like are a little bit above them, but the Heat just look like they can't compete with the other Eastern teams that are towards the top of the East there. But they're always a dangerous team to see in the playoffs, and you do not want to see them in the playoffs if possible. Because you're going to get beat up, it's going to be not not blowouts. It's going to be close games, and they're going to rough you up, kind of thing. So even if it is a 4-game series, it is going to be a tough 4 games for sure. Here we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. The initial reaction is they won the Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle trade, even though Dante DiVincenzo isn't nailing threes yet. Overreaction and the status is it's complicated. Yeah, Dante DiVincenzo is not shooting super well from 3 so far. I still think that it's just him getting acclimated to the roster and just his finding his spots and everything like that, as well as just dealing with new guys. I mean, it's going to happen. Julius Randle, though, he looks decent, actually. Anthony Edwards, though, is shooting phenomenally. He is shooting. He's got like the most made threes so far to start the year. If he continues that, I mean, that's a dangerous dude because he could blow by anybody. He could take you off the dribble. He could pull up and shoot. And now he can pull up and shoot consistently really well from 3. That's a dangerous man. That is a scary guy to see in the playoffs because that is what sounds like a finals MVP. That is what sounds like just somebody that is able to lead a team to a championship. They got better depth-wise. Yes, they may have lost the star in Karl Anthony Towns, but let's not forget Julius Randle was an All-NBA caliber player. He made an All-NBA team. So you gave up an All-NBA guy to get an All-NBA guy, and you got Dante DiVincenzo. Now, Cat has been playing decent for the New York Knicks, but overall, I'm still a huge fan of this trade for the Timberwolves. I think it plans for longevity with this roster, adding that depth that was needed because you had to pick and choose the guys that you need to pay, and they just weren't willing to continue the continual cycle of we're getting beat pretty close to that Western Conference Finals. We're not going to try and do that again. We got to switch something up. Here we have the Milwaukee Bucks, who are still figuring things out. That initial overreaction is the sky is falling. Status of it is actually free falling because they look pretty bad. I think last night they actually had a really good game. Giannis and Dame both had 30 points or something like that. I think the solution is very simple offensively. It is Dame needs to bring up the ball, Giannis needs to send him a screen, and they need to do a screen and roll every play. Whether if the defender goes under, Dame shoots the 3. If the defender goes over, Dame drives to the basket, tries to get the ball to Giannis, or takes a layup himself. It is a simple 2-man game. Of course, it's just Giannis does not like to set screens. He does not like it. For some reason, he's just not a huge fan of it. I get it. He is a ball-dominant player who likes to go coast to coast and have that ball in his hands. But if he's starting to settle for jumpers, I'm living that. I'm loving that because I will stack the paint. I will let him beat me by 3. I will double Dame so that, similar to Bam, I will double Jimmy so I can let Bam shoot. I will double Dame so I can let Giannis shoot. If he makes 10 threes, so be it. He ain't going to do it tomorrow. Now, Giannis always to me seemed like the kind of guy that was a lifer in Milwaukee. He was the kind of guy that I saw and I was like, he's going to retire there from the start of his career, right? We didn't know how great he was going to be right off the bat at the start of his career. So I guess until he popped off, right? Then he popped off and he's been dominant ever since. But I don't know what it is. He looks extra frustrated on the court. You can see it. He looks like the kind of guy that is like, I'm getting sick and tired of losing. I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. If we don't make a move, if we don't somehow get me help, I'm out, kind of thing. That's how I feel like it is. It has gotten to that point. Now, before it did get to that point, and they got him Drew Holiday or they got him Damian Lillard, but now it's just interesting that like he looks so frustrated. It actually looks like he is on more out than he is in. I think that he'll ride out the season. I highly doubt that they will trade him at the trade deadline. There's no way, unless he specifically comes out, they are just dog shit, and he comes out and he says, hey, I am out. I need to be traded by the trade deadline. I want to play somewhere else. But I just don't think that that'll happen. I think that he is going to finish out the season and then reevaluate, depending on how they do. Also depends on he'll go, of course, and talk to the front office and everything. See what their plan is with guys like Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, your entire bench, etc. Right? They seem like a team that was looking to win now, and then so you would have probably drafted a guy that was ready to come in and honestly give like a kind of instant impact, similar to like the Heat with Jaime Jaquez. Jaime Jaquez was a bit of an older rookie, but he came in with those years on his belt and he was ready to impact day one. Same thing with Milwaukee. They should have done that. Instead, they went with some 18-year-old rookie that was ready to develop. Should have gone to a team like Detroit, Charlotte, Portland, etc. Next up here, the Pelicans. Initial overreaction is this offense is cooked. Status of it, it stands, but more nuance is required. Zion, of course, just got injured, so that is a huge bummer. You never want to see that from. They are so injury ridden. That's why I don't really agree with this overreaction because they just don't have the same consistent lineup day in and day out kind of thing. Brandon Ingram injured, or Jordan Hawkins is out, or Zion is out, or somebody is always out for this roster. So one thing I really like to see, Brandon Ingram, when he hit that game winner on Anthony Simons, that was pretty electric, pretty cool, great to see. Especially they have their outside of the court beef, so it's cool that they're settling it on the court kind of thing. They both guarded each other, etc. I like to see that, right? That rivalry is now there because we don't see a whole lot of rivalry in today's NBA because guys are all buddies, we work out together, etc. We're all friends, right? But then there's the certain guys, Anthony Edwards, Luka. You have, of course, Brandon Ingram with his beef with Anthony Simons, etc. You see that and you're like, oh, this is what I watch basketball for. I love the rivalries, the Jimmy Butler beef, Trae Young against the Knicks, etc. We like to see that. We don't want to see, Jason Tatum dapping up LeBron. Like, it's cool that they're buddies, but like on the court when the game starts, let's cut the crap. Let's get down to the brass tacks. That's what we want to see. The Pelicans, though, I think that they're just injury-ridden. I don't think that there's anything crazy that they need to overreact to or whatever. New York Knicks. Initial overreaction, Karl-Anthony Towns trade was a mistake. Status of it, we need to adjust. It's just something that you got to figure it out. You got two new guys, of course. Not only did you trade for Karl-Anthony Towns, but you also traded for Mikal Bridges, so it's all going to take some time to click. It's two new guys on the roster. You got to take some time and chill. You cannot overreact and flip another guy or something like that. You need to take a step back and realize, oh, shit, I need to chill. I need to do this. We need to just play games and just learn each other. Learn the ins and outs of everyone and how Cat wants the ball here versus over there. Doesn't want to be put in a high post or something like that. They just need to talk and communicate and keep going. I don't. This is an overreaction for sure. I don't see that they're in any sort of rush or issue. Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is dominant. They are so good. Offensively, defensively, they've got the depth. They look like a championship contending team. They look so scary. They're so young, and they could be doing this for a while. Now, eventually, they're going to be meeting their match where they got to play like the Celtics, for example, who are as, like, maybe not have as much depth, but have the star power to compete, right? It is going to be a fantastic series this year if we see a Celtics Thunder finals. Um, I'm excited to watch them play in a 7 game series against someone like the Timberwolves, against somebody like the Nuggets, against somebody like, these teams towards the top of the West that have talent around them, right, that they can compete with. I think that they're ready to take that next step. They remind me a lot of that younger Oklahoma City team, younger Boston Celtics team that was able to make it to a finals, and this seems like the one. Excuse me. This seems like the one where they'll lose, but they're gonna bounce back even better the next year, kind of thing. Next up here, we have the Orlando Magic. It is unfortunate that Paolo got hurt because he is insane. They are phenomenal with him. Contavious Caldwell Pope not shooting the ball well, but nobody can stop Paolo. He, I'm bummed that he did get injured because this team does look really good with him, and I think that Contavious Caldwell Pope, similar to Dante DiVincenzo, I think it'll work itself out. Um, so we'll just move on right past them. 76ers. Caleb Martin and Andre Drummond are going to start more games than Joel Embiid and Paul George. Seems like the truth. Paul George did finally make his appearance. They gave him the opportunity to hit a game-winning shot. I wish they would have given it to Tyrese Maxey, but I understand he's brand new. You're trying to give him the keys early on and just get that confidence up to fit in really well with this squad. Embiid, of course, has not been playing too much. It's just something that's just going to happen if you're a Sixers fan. You have to expect this kind of play. They are going to have nights. That's why they went and signed Andre Drummond. That's why they went and got Martin. That's why they have Kelly Oubre. So if guys are injured, they still have talent there to play, right? Because even with Andre Drummond starting instead of Embiid, you still have both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey on the court. And once they figure everything out, they'll look good, I think. Um, next up we have the Phoenix Suns. They look dominant. I agree with this. The initial reaction was Kevin Durant's playing too much, and same thing. I agree, but I think that they have their rookie Ryan Dunn. He looks really good. He's been shooting the ball really well. Grayson Allen put on too much muscle. He can't shoot a freaking. He's shooting terribly right now, like 21% from three, when he's been a 40% three-point shooter for his career. Just guys like that they're going to figure these things out as the season goes on. I think Grayson Allen will get back to that shooting and everything because when you do put on muscle, of course, it does affect that shot. It's just going to take time to get back into that flow. Just that feeling, he'll get there. As far as KD, D-Book, Bradley Beal, it looks better. It does. Having Tyus Jones there was a huge acquisition. He looks like he is helping them quite a lot. But overall, yeah, they need to start finding guys that they can slip in for those older guys' minutes, especially with Bradley Beal's injury history. KD being as old as he is, you need to be able to give those spot minutes away. Next up, Portland Trailblazers. Overreaction. Trade Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant already. Status of it, my point stands, but it's giving way to a more intriguing development. Now, what it's saying here is new overreaction to everyone who believed in the defense. It's time for a victory lap. This team offensively doesn't look great, right? Defensively, they look all right, but Denny Avdija not playing well offensively. DeAndre Ayton doesn't really look phenomenal. Of course, you have Donovan Clingan who looks slow-footed, etc. There's flashes here, but Scoot Henderson hasn't really been shooting the ball too well the last few games. Overall, this Portland team needs some help. They need a star. They need a Cooper Flag bad on this roster. They need to go get a star. It's just not too much you can really say. Next up here, Sacramento Kings. Mike Brown has decided Keon Ellis isn't a real person and figments of imagination cannot play too many minutes in meaningful basketball games. Status of the overreaction, breathe easy, Keon Ellis stands. So, Sacramento doesn't look terrible. I still stand by the initial thought of they need spacing, right? Of course, you have Kevin Huerter and you have Keegan Murray, decent three-point shooters. I just think that they are similar to when I talked about Indiana and them being, or Memphis when I said they're a fun league pass team to watch. I think that's all that the ceiling is for Sacramento. I can't see them beating, even taking a game against the Thunder. I can't see them giving Denver too much trouble during the postseason. And let's take the regular season and throw it away, right? Because we've seen teams, the Atlanta Hawks a few years back with Al Horford, Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, etc., when they had like 5 All-Stars, Paul Millsap. Um, let's remember that they were a 1 seed that then got dominated in the playoffs. Let's remember the Utah Jazz got dominated in the playoffs, even though they were a 1 seed. So regular season, I don't give two craps about kind of thing. If you made the playoffs and everything, now, of course, being a Northern California boy, I hope for success for the Sacramento Kings. I'm just realistic in the sense of I don't love the fit of DeMar, De'Aaron, and Sabonis. I just don't. It's something just doesn't look right to me. Where it just looks like it looks clunky. That's the best way I can describe it. It looks clunky on the court. Now, of course, we're only 10 games in, so there's still plenty of time for that three-point shooting to come up. They attempt the 25th in the league at three-pointers attempted. Keep that in mind. We know of these days, three-point shooting teams that make a crap ton, make the finals, win playoff games kind of thing. That's all I'm saying. Up next, San Antonio Spurs. They are figuring it out kind of thing. Turnover issues are here to stay. Same thing. It's proper reaction right here. They're going to be a turnover-heavy team because they're young, right? They're going to be a turnover-heavy team because they've got to develop players. They've got to put the ball in Devin Vassell's hands. They've got to put the ball in Stephon Castle's hands. They've got to put the ball in Vic's hands, which when you put the ball in young guys' hands, it's going to cause some turnovers, as we've seen from Cade Cunningham, as we've seen from LaMelo Ball, etc. Those young guys are going to turn over the ball a lot. So that is something to keep in mind as these times keep going is, yes, they look fun and everything. They could be on the way, and they could be on the trajectory of somebody like the Thunder, but they need to develop, and that's going to take time, just as the Thunder took their time. Next up here, we have the Toronto Raptors. Overreaction is RJ Barrett is the second most important player to the future. I agree with that 100%. I think that there was a stretch there, a few games there, where you were like, oh, Grady Dick looks really good, but overall, RJ Barrett, it's probably Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, right? Of just pure, not only trade value, but also pure want on that court, handling the rock and having that ball in their hands. I don't really think there's too much, like, after those guys. Like, I mean, personally to me, if there's a right package for Grady Dick, I'm looking to move off of him. If you package him and Jakob Poeltl, you probably go get something decent. Even, like... But outside of that, there's not too much value here on this roster, right? Not too many other guys. I hope the best for all those players, but just not too much crazy value for them. All right, 2 more teams here. Utah, the best player on the best player of the next good Utah Jazz team is not on this year's Utah Jazz team. That just kind of depends on where they fall in that draft lottery. Hopefully they get that number 1 overall pick being this bad, and then they go and get Cooper Flagg. That's obvious. He's balling in college. He looks really good on Duke right now. Just looks phenomenal. Looks like he's going to make a crazy impact to start off the league in the NBA. I think if you can, no matter what, you got to throw everything at the team that gets the number 1 pick, because Cooper Flagg is a game changer. He is that kind of dude, I think. I think he's legit. I've always said that. I like Cooper Flagg. Him as a 17-year-old and what he was able to do against Team USA, like, yeah, there's going to be the growing pains where he makes some turnovers or gets his shot blocked by Anthony Davis or something like that, but he's 17 years old. Give the guy a break. Overall, Utah, you got to hope that you are not going to be like Detroit and fall to the 5th pick or something like that. You have to hope that you get that number 1 overall pick. Last but not least, the Wizards. The Wizards are going to Charlotte Bobcat, a.k.a. finish dead last in offense and defense. Initial overreaction. New overreaction. Koulibaly is a future all-star. They look better. It is crazy to say that the Washington Wizards may have something going on there, right? They, of course, they re-signed Corey Kispert to a friendly deal, 3-year, $54 million deal. Of course, you have Alex Sarr, who was the number one overall prospect, dropped to number 2 because he said he didn't want to play at Atlanta. He wanted to play for you. Then you have I like Bub Carrington. I think he was a fantastic pickup. Of course, like I said, Corey Kispert, very tradable contract. I think he brings a lot of value, etc. So there's a lot of good things about this roster, I think, that are really clicking, and they're just young. They actually don't have terrible basketball play. It's not fantastic, but it's not the worst. Overall, I think that a lot of these teams have success on the way. Some of them, it's only 10 games into the season, so it's like, hey, relax. Let's not overreact to this kind of stuff. Let's just take a moment to press the brakes. So overall, if you guys did enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below your most impressed team as well as your least impressed team to start the year. So without further ado, it's been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.